Oh my goodness, I loved that silence. What a beautiful sound. And what a beautiful guest we have today. You've already met her in her singer and songwriter persona, but oh my goodness, she has so many amazing sides to her. And she is Renee King-Sonnen of the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary in Texas. And she also, along with her husband, whom we'll hear about, heads up the Rancher Advocacy Program, which is seeking to get ranchers and farmers engaging in animal agriculture to move to another kind of agriculture or another line of work. Tall order, but you know what? The taller, the better for this amazing woman. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's just stunning to have you, and thank you for your patience through our technical difficulties. But you are no stranger to difficulties. You kind of take them on as a challenge, it seems like just about every day. So tell us the short version of your story. How did you get from being a girl singing country songs to a vegan saving animals and revolutionizing agriculture?
Well, so the way I did that was for many years, I practiced yoga. Even before I was singing or doing anything else, I was practicing yoga when it wasn't cool. I had a guru whom you know, Swami Satchidananda. So even though I wasn't vegan or even vegetarian a lot of that time, because I was studying with a master, which never judged me or criticized me. It was always, he always taught in love, and all my teaching, all the teachings that I gleaned from him was all about just putting more of the good stuff in. And as you put more of the good stuff in, the stuff that's not intended to stay with my mind, body, spirit was going to fall away. And I'll be dadgum if that didn't happen. And I remember being at the ashram in Yogaville one time back in the 80s, and I was sitting at his feet, and it was my first 10-day silent retreat. And I wanted so bad to just stay there. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to come home. I didn't want to do anything else. And I remember him saying, Sangita. Sangita is my given name by Swami Satchidananda. And he said, your work is in the world. You can come here anytime and be replenished anytime. And, and you can use the Bij mantra. He said, but your work is in the world. And at that time, I had no idea that, I thought I was going to be a famous country western singer, and all that. I had no idea I was going to end up, transforming an entire, cattle ranch and revolutionizing a food system. And I had no idea, that I was going to be singing to cows instead of people and loving every minute of it. So, that's kind of how it happened. Was I think the Bij mantra, that I was given, and my practice eventually led me to this calling, because when it was time, it was like everything fell away, and this is all there was. This is what I had to do. It was in that moment that I finally knew exactly who I was and why I was on this planet, So I didn't know that until then.
I love what you said about Swami Satchidananda not judging you, but still changing you by his presence. And I understand that he's a highly evolved spiritual teacher, and most of us are just regular people on the path. And yet I have a sense that we could do that too, just by the way we live our lives, that whole idea of attraction activism. So I love that. And I love that you experienced that. So is this Bij mantra? I'm not familiar with that. Is that long, or is that something you can sing for us?
Well, the Bij mantra that was given to me when I was initiated by him was, I will tell this group, I don't think I've ever told another group, but I'm going to tell this one. It was, so if everyone could just get very silent and just release all thoughts that you can think of and let it go. And this is it. Om Grim Namah Shivaya. Om Grim Namah Shivaya. Om Grim Namah Shivaya. So I was given this mantra, and I was told to meditate with this mantra just every day, like 31 minutes a day was my assignment. And I did that for a long time. And he told me eventually the mantra would become me. And it did. Eventually that mantra, like I could just be doing anything, doing something, and all of a sudden that mantra is like expressing itself to me. So I live from really the energy of that mantra.
Well, I was all ready to ask you how it was that with all those decades of yoga, the vegetarian thing just went over your head. And I know that by the time of his death, Swami Satchidananda was even talking about vegan living. And yet, I don't think that's a relevant question now because I think it happened at the perfect time.
Yeah, I was always experimenting, being from Texas, and I know now because of the work we do with cattle ranchers, when I'm talking to cattle ranchers, there's a door that we can't go through. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about those many mansions. Those many mansions are constructs, spiritual constructs. I really believe it. And that we can go into them at any time. And the more practice we have at going in and out of those different dimensions, the easier it is. It's just normal. And so when I ended up finally going down like a rabbit hole into that mansion where veganism was, I knew that I had been at that door many times, but I would not dare go in there, because if I went there, my whole life was going to change. It was going to be, and I couldn't even conceive of it. That's why it's the cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's real. We really are aware. It's like when I'm talking to cattle ranchers, their dissonance is palpable, and you can't make them go into that door. I can watch them go right to the edge of it, which is where I've been many, many times in the past, and wouldn't go because family, tradition, culture, religion, everything, all my belief systems are wrapped up into me staying just the way I am to be part of the tribe I'm in, and so, I experimented with vegetarianism when I was studying to be a yoga teacher. And, I did it, for a while, but I would always end up, I always ended up doing what I always did, because I never went into that mansion and stayed there. And then one time I experimented with plant-based. I mean, it wasn't called plant-based, it was called raw. It was raw diet. It was a very raw diet. I went to this healing center in Austin, the Optimal Health Institute, and I stayed there 2 weeks, and I did all the cleanses. I did all the raw food. I did all the, the juices and the colonics and, the oxygenated swimming pools. And, but I wasn't a vegan. I was just trying to cleanse, I was trying to detox. And so I was doing all that. So I always played around with it, but I never would go in that room that is vegan. And there's a difference between a plant-based eater and a person that's vegan. A person that's vegan will never eat animals again. Plant-based people do it all the time. They're not vegan. And so that's my opinion anyway.
So how did Rowdy Girl change all that?
Well, Rowdy Girl, a lot of people think I'm Rowdy Girl, and I am rowdy, and I do take on her persona. Rowdy Girl changed that because she lives in me. When I started bottle feeding her, I started seeing what she saw. I started seeing all the animals, all the cows out in the pasture, the way she sees them. The way she saw them, it was like her eyes were in my eyes. Her vision became my vision, and I began to see their names. I began to see their all their differences, what made them individual. It was the weirdest thing. It was like I was at the right moment, at the right time, spiritually, to be able to see things I had never seen before. And there's a verse in the Bible, Matthew 6:33, I think it is, faith is the evidence of things. Faith is the evidence, the substance of things
hoped for,
and the evidence of things not seen. Those things I couldn't see were always there, but I never saw it. And that keeps happening for me, because I am such a faith-filled person. And that faith brought me to a place where I could finally see like Rowdy Girl saw things. And that's what led me down that rabbit hole. Rowdy Girl is my vegan advocate. Rowdy Girl is my muse. Rowdy Girl, I really do believe that the power that's greater than me, the power that I finally surrendered to, is the power that animates all life, whether it's a cow, whether it's a tree, whether it's a rock, whether it's you. It doesn't matter what that is, what that power is. I can tap into that power as long as I surrender to that power. And that's so I can think like a cow,
I love it. I love how you think when you're in cow mode and country singer mode and all the rest. So I cringe sometimes, Renee, when somebody will say to me, as I have heard half a dozen times, my grandmother left me $2,000. I'm going to start an animal sanctuary.
Oh.
So tell us what it's really like, and tell us what's going on now. I know that you guys are having or recently had a drought, which caused a lot of trouble. Tell us what's going on and what you need.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking. When people think they want to start a sanctuary, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, I remember when I started to say Wayne Dyer. It's crazy. He's also one of my, he's one of my teachers that I resonate with. But anyway, Howard Lyman, the Mad Cowboy, he's the one that, the only person in the whole wide world, whenever had gone vegan and was so mad at my husband, I wanted to kill him. Not really, but, I wanted to hang him up on that Bill elk, and leave him there, for days and days. But anyway, it was, I remember him saying when I talked to him finally, Renee, if you're going to start a sanctuary, because I wanted to buy my husband's cows, and I was committed to do it and start a sanctuary. Never had been done in Texas. We're the first documented beef cattle ranch conversion in history, that's lived to tell about it anyway. And so when I told Howard Lyman all this, finally got to talk to him, he said, Renee, before you start a sanctuary, you should go visit, with 6 or 7 of them and see how they run things. Go volunteer and stay there a few weeks and really get in the middle of it. And I was like, I can't do that. If I go and visit sanctuaries, my husband's going to kill the cows. He'll send them all to slaughter. I didn't have the luxury of doing that, but I would recommend that if you, because that was good advice. Because now, I know based on what I've been through, the reason I'm so resilient, the reason I've been able to do this is because I have a strong background as an entrepreneur in business. And, because I'm a professional performer, singer, songwriter, and producer, I have a lot of skills that really carried into this work that I do. I just put everything, I put all of me into this work, and it has taken all of that and then some, all of that. And everybody that donates to us, we have 510 members, which I'm so grateful for. Members can, donate as much as they want to per month or year, just so it's some sort of consistent thing so that we can budget, and that has been such a blessing to us. the drought we've been experiencing over the past, gosh, I mean, since like March or April, it's been unbelievable, you know, to have hardly any rain. We're like I don't know how many inches, I mean, 5 to 8 inches behind in rain. Our ground is so hard and dry and dusty, and I've already spent $40,000 or so just for hay this year. And we, you know, I've already used almost all the winter hay. We had to buy more, had to do a big fundraiser. So the hay, because of this drought, has been unbelievable. Because when you got a herd of cows like I do, we have 68 cows, and we have, you know, 2 horses and, you know, a bunch of pigs. And not only do they eat hay, but we also use it for bedding. We also, you know, buy hay to keep their conditions very clean. We're always using hay. Hay is a big expense. And with this drought, you know, hay prices have gone up, transportation has gone up. So everything is higher. And so to be able to count on people, to know how much donations we have coming in through memberships is huge. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate our one-time donors. I appreciate getting grants, but those are one time, and I know what I'm going to do with that, and I use it. But the membership is what gives me peace of mind. So that's the best thing anybody can do, is to become a member.
And I see Reverend Sarah has put the link to your website with the drought fundraiser there in the chat. And if after we're finished talking, there's another link you want to put for membership, please feel free to do that. So you mentioned your husband, and anybody who doesn't know you yet, I think has probably figured out through this that your husband was a cattle rancher. And we all know about Howard Lyman, long-term rancher going way back. So was your husband. I mean, this was a family business for generations. And I hear a lot of women saying, I can't get my husband to eat vegetables, but you got your husband to change his diet and change his career and change the family business. How on earth did you do that?
My husband tells everybody, and I got a shirt that I got printed, that veganism was shoved down his throat. He chewed it up and he liked it. I was not that vegan that said, well, honey, you know, you'll come around. I know I wasn't that. I know that maybe that works for some people, but in our marriage, I had to literally, you know, every single day say, watch this video, watch Cowspiracy, watch, you know, Food Matters, watch What the Hell. You know, I finally got him to watch Earthlings, but he couldn't even get through it. And, you know, watch this. And it was Forks Over Knives that finally convinced my husband. Because the heart disease aspect, you know, the China study really got to my husband, because his father had died of a massive heart attack at the age of 62. So Tommy's 64 now, or 65. That started clicking for him. And even though my husband has always loved animals, he's always been a very compassionate person, and he considered himself a humane farmer. He got to veganism through the back door of health. And I don't care how people get there. I want him to get there, but what I do care about is that my husband is now an ethical vegan. See, you know, you can get there as for health or environment, but you best get there for the animals. That's what it's really about. You know, regardless of how you eat. I mean, God knows we want to be healthy, and we don't want the environment to suffer. We don't, you know, we need a healthy ecosystem. But, you know, if we don't save these, you know, our animal brethren from the plight they're in, then, you know, well, what are we doing? And you got to go vegan ethically to do that. So my husband did that.
That's so great. So you changed one rancher, but he was in love with you. So whatever on earth, and unfortunately this has to be my last question, time is so short, what gave you the idea that you could start the Rancher Advocacy Program and change a whole bunch of them?
Well, what gave me the idea? The idea came from a lady named Nikki, who's still on my team. She she didn't tell me the idea. She was in a space with me where I was able to think about it. She was helping me in a development phase of my organization several years ago. And she said to me one day, it was about, I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe. She said, you need to start thinking about your programming. Maybe it was 6 years ago. You need to start thinking about your programming. What you're going to do to set you apart from other, farm sanctuaries. What's going to be your niche, in this nonprofit sector. And, and I thought about, FFA, and she said, yeah, but so-and-so does that too. But we do that. We do rescue animals from FFA, and that is a program, but that is the main program. So we kept talking about it, and, we do tours, we do, we do private tours. There's all kind of things that other people do. And then she said, what's different? Come on, there's got to be something, let's get creative. I said, well, I talked to cattle ranchers, and their wives. I said, it's private. They contact me. And she got real quiet. She said, what? You talk to cattle ranchers? For whatever for? And I'm like, because they contact me. Our story went viral on CBS Evening News. It became a thing. Our story started being translated in other languages. And before you know it, other cattle rancher family members were contacting me behind the scenes, wanting to tell me this, that, and the other about the way they felt about what they were doing on their land. Or they would call me and say, I'm not calling for myself, I'm calling for my neighbor, when really it was them. And it was so funny. And so Nikki said, well, there's your program, Renee. And I said, what? And she said, nobody does that. Who does that? I don't know anybody in our movement doing that. And so the Rancher Advocacy Program is the very first farm transition program in our movement, the very first. And now there's a few more, and I'm just grateful that our programming has sparked an interest in that space, but it's a hard nut to crack. I'm telling you, transitioning farms is, I didn't realize just how big of a feat that was going to be. But we are transitioning the Barrett farm right now in Arkansas from a former chicken farm to a exotic oyster mushroom farm. And we have 6 rooms already growing beautiful exotic mushrooms. We're going to be scaling to about 2,700 pounds a week by the end of November, and we'll be doubling in capacity every 4 to 6 weeks. So this has been something that's been in the works for 4 years, this farm. But I remember, telling Nikki, I'm not only an animal rights activist, but I'm a farmer advocate. I'm a rancher advocate. And somehow God, Spirit, has managed to put me slap dab in the middle, where I can put 1 foot over here in the ranching community. I can put 1 foot over here in the vegan community, and I can speak both languages, and I can bring them together. And if I can do that with God's help, then, all I know is some people think that is just so super awesome. What I know is it makes me pray a whole lot more. It keeps me on my knees a whole lot longer. And that's why I'm really grateful to actually talk to you about all this, because, this is not for the faint of heart. You don't want to go out there and think you can do this unless you are really grounded in a power greater than yourself. Because I think that power, I really do believe this power is the only thing that's going to change our planet and help these farmers and get our ecosystem balanced and bring everything back to the way it needs to be, is through people that are willing to show up in the space of spirit and stay there, live there through all of this. There's no other way to do it.
And you certainly do. You're such a role model. Thank you so much. I hope that you can hang around. I know we got a late start. If we don't see you in fellowship afterwards, God bless you and all your animals and your husband. And we will definitely stay in touch.